Starting any business is hard. Starting a beverage company, radically more difficult.
Beverage has a 99% failure rate in the first 5 years, 95% failure rate in the first year.
This is Aaron Hinde. He's one of the founders of FITAID, which is a clean beverage company that is now worth well over $100 million. In this episode, Aaron reveals, 1, what it takes to not only survive, but to thrive in one of the most unforgiving markets in business.
It's been anything but a straight line. I mean, we've almost gone out of business, bankrupt at least a dozen times.
2, how to keep it together when almost everything seems to be going sideways.
My house burned down, my brother died, my mom died. It's like dealing with all of the loss and everything while you still got to keep the ship afloat and moving forward. It's not for everybody.
And 3, why retail puts almost all consumer packaged goods out of business.
It's costing me $1 million a year to have a relationship with this retailer.
So, how did he scale a business in an industry that basically kills all entrepreneurs? Keep watching to find out.
Aaron Hinde, you went from thriving chiropractic business in California into a brutally competitive beverage space, which you've now grown this beast of a company, LifeAid, FitAid, etc. What made you think that you could move from direct beverage sales into retail?
Ignorance and insanity. That's how you take a big fortune and you make a little one, you move into retail. I mean, so much has changed in the last 15 years. I mean, when we first started, our first 5 years, we were direct to consumer and direct to gym only. We had zero retail presence for 5 years. You know, we were sponsoring CrossFit, we were sponsoring Spartan Race, and some of those buyers would pull us in. So we got pulled into our first Whole Foods division. We got pulled into H-E-B out in Texas, and some of those have been great partners. And then there's been some that haven't been so great of partners. But there's certain retailers out there that will charge $100 per store per SKU. So let's just say I want 4 of my FitAid drinks on the shelf. That's $400 I'm paying before I sell one can for the right to be sold and have this little piece of shelf space. Well, if you look at what your margins actually are after you pay a distributor margin and the retailer needs to make their money and their margin, you're usually operating already on a compressed margin. Then you're paying the slotting fees. Then you have to pay a promotional calendar. A lot of those promos that people run, like, oh, look at this brand's on buy one, get one free. Well, guess who pays for that free can? It's not the store. It's the manufacturer. It's the brand itself. So if I'm selling a $4 drink and I'm on BOGO, so 2 for $4 instead of $4 each, I'm getting billed back for every can that's sold $2 per can, right? From the retailer. It's called penny pass-through. It means that you're getting stuck with the entirety of the promotion. So that's why, retail can be so challenging. You start adding up. In addition, just for the right to be on sale, a lot of retailers now are charging $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for the right to be on sale, in addition to the penny pass-through. So you start adding up all these fees, and it's crazy, how brutal the retail landscape has gotten. And now a lot of retailers are moving to their own brands. They're really pushing, Whole Foods has 365, like, Safeway Select. Like, you look at each retailer now, Trader Joe's has always been that way. It's almost all Trader Joe's, internal brands where they're really, banking higher margin, Kirkland brand at Costco, et cetera, pushing their own brands.
So one point of clarity, and I want to talk about that. You mentioned buy one, get one offers. And if you want to run those, what you said was somebody spends $2 and then you pay the retail establishment $2. Does the retail establishment get the margin on the second can also?
Oh, absolutely. They're not taking a margin hit. Once in a while, they'll have a little bit of margin compression depending on the retailer. But for the most part, the brand is taking the vast majority of the hit, if not in the entirety of the hit. And again, the entirety of the hit is just called penny pass-through. It's meaning that whatever the actual dollar amount of the discount gets passed right on to the brand in a bill back.
Damn, man. Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah. It's challenging.
So what's the metric that you should watch as a beverage company that you actually pay attention to? Because you mentioned like 7 just now, right? All the different channels of promotion, placement, et cetera, et cetera.
One of the most important metrics that took us a little while and having really a rock star CFO come on board to pay close attention to is your contribution margin per channel. Okay. Because a lot of people will like poo-poo Amazon or, oh, it's expensive to deal with. But if they actually baked fully baked contribution margin on their direct-to-consumer business, you would go, oh, actually, Amazon looks pretty attractive, because you got to bake in not only your cost of goods, but the box costs, the shipping costs, right? Like my warehouse costs, my site-to-site costs. So I have all these costs, and when I bake it fully in, oh wow, Amazon taking their fee and me just shipping them pallets and having them do all the distribution, that's actually higher contribution margin in some channels or in some cases. If I'm looking at retailer, looking at contribution margin for retail as a whole, but then per retailer, which was really eye-opening. We had national distribution through CVS. And then when we looked at what they were billing us back in this, just this black hole of chargebacks, you realize, wow, not only am I not making money, but it's costing me $1 million a year to have a relationship with this retailer. So learning who are the good partners and who aren't. And it's really easy from a consumer's perspective to see who the good partners are and who aren't, because if their stock price has been tanking over the last 15 years, that means that they're not a good partner. Because what happens, it's a self-fulfilling kind of prophecy here, is they start chasing short-term cash, right, from pressure from the higher ups. So they're hitting all these brands with massive slotting fees and crazy charges, which creates a revolving door. So instead of offering the best products for your customers, they're chasing the short-term cash. And when you start offering bad products, because these brands are just willing to write the checks to be on shelf, then your sales overall start to go down, and then the store quality goes down, and you're attracting a
sort of like an HOA at an old building.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. The HOA keep going up and up and up as the building deteriorates, right? Yeah, exactly. It's a great analogy.
More and more to fix in the building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of the things that I think is interesting about FITAID in general, and let's take it to present day and then we'll back out. But first off, you have a unique product offering. You came into the market with sort of a nootropic offering that I didn't see, there wasn't as much competition as there is now when you started. But in 2022, you launched FITAID Energy. The energy market is super fucking competitive.
Mm-hmm.
What was unique about your offering, and what non-obvious ingredient do you think actually started to move that product for you?
Yeah, I mean, back when we first started in 2011, we were the very first functional beverage platform out there. I mean, it really didn't exist, right? You had energy drinks, which all energy drinks are basically the same. It's a caffeine model, right? And you had the emergence of coconut water and kombucha, for kind of functional purposes. People were drinking, coconut water for some hydration and electrolytes type of thing, and kombucha for gut health. So there was this emergence of these functional categories. But what we did is we took kind of the cool, sexy, hip factor of the energy drinks and said, well, how do we make these very unique and very function specific? So FocusAid being the very first nootropic beverage on the market, because there were no nootropic beverages. It didn't even exist. People didn't even really know what nootropics were. Or FITAID for post-workout recovery. We were very early to creatine and creatine RTDs. But specifically for the energy drinks, nobody's drinking energy drinks for health reasons, right? They drink it because they need a pick-me-up. So it's like, okay, well, how do we create something that's true to our ethos and make sure that it's naturally sweetened? So no sucralose, no aspartame, low to no sugar, no use of artificial dyes, and clean caffeine. So we want a completely clean caffeine source. For us, we use green tea and or yerba mate, depending on the blend. We don't use synthetic caffeine. Synthetic caffeine comes from these gigafactories in China full of industrial chemicals. It's nasty, nasty stuff. So that's what our big differentiator was. Like, hey, we're going to create an energy drink, but actually create a clean one that a nutritionist or your doctor would go, well, if you're going to drink an energy drink, this is actually a pretty good stack. And from a caffeine level perspective, I mean, people that drink coffee, which I do in the morning, drink a 20-ounce coffee, you're getting, typically quite a bit more caffeine than you would in even one of these energy drinks.
So Here's a question for you. What clean energy companies out there that are your competitors are not actually clean? And what ingredients do they use that piss you off that you feel like the FDA should be on top of?
The biggest ones are like Celsius, Alani Nu, and I'm super grateful for those companies. I think they've done a great job in disruption. There's always a 1, 2, and 3 in the industry forever. As I grew up, you grew up, it was, Red Bull, Monster, Rockstar that hadn't been disrupted forever. Bang came along, disrupted Rockstar as a number 3 player. Jack, the founder of Bang, is crazy and ended up imploding his whole company. And then Celsius swooped in and took that number 3 spot. Celsius has done, and Alani have done a great job on attracting women to a category in energy drinks that has been 99% male forever, right? But every single woman that I've ever seen drinking one of those products, and I engage a conversation with them, they all believe that these are clean, natural products, but because that's the way they're positioned, it says, no artificial flavoring on the front or stuff like that, which they go, oh, well, this must be natural, But they don't realize that they're sweetened with sucralose, aspartame, and or ACE K. They use some natural caffeine sources like green tea, but then they're also using synthetic caffeine because it's much cheaper, which comes from China. So there's a lot of kind of mixing of quasi-clean ingredients with, the more traditional energy drink ingredients and that kind of thing.
Good to know.
Yeah.
You have now, like when I first found, I don't actually know how we met, but when I met you and I got introduced to your product line, you maybe had 5. And now you have kind of a host of different flavor profiles and different products. How do you choose when to introduce a new product? And how do you run a test long enough and know when to kill it if it doesn't work?
Yeah. I mean, timing's everything. We were, late to energy, even with clean energy, that was, as you mentioned, was super established. We were really early to recovery beverages. We were really early to nootropic beverages. I think we're timing creatine RTDs and our creatine powders perfectly right now. Like creatine's completely on fire. So timing's everything. It's like surfing, you could paddle your ass off, but if you're not timing that wave properly, you're just not going to catch it. So we've gotten better and we're pretty nimble on like going, okay, what's the landscape look like? What's our current audience already consuming that we're not able to provide for them? And that's why we launched like our essentials line, which is some very basic, high quality, methylated B vitamins and high quality magnesium, glycinate, and a few of these things, because our audience was already taking these, right? So it's like, well, if you're putting in your order for your drinks, you might as well, add these other items that we can provide at a very cost-effective manner and put it in with your drink order. And so the timing of it's everything. And then look, you got to be, sometimes you got to kill some of the babies, and that's been tough to do over the years. But, we've just got a few products. It's like, I'll give you a good example. Our LifeAid drink, which is, our namesake drink, our LifeAid drink was an anti-inflammatory blend. I'm like, inflammation's huge. Chronic inflammation's, a big issue. Like this is an area we need to focus on. And so I formulate with turmeric and ginger and cayenne, like all these anti-inflammatory ingredients. Taste pretty good. Like, wow, it's a really effective drink. I'm really excited about it. But we can't use the word anti-inflammatory because that is a disease claim that will get you shut down by FDA and FTC. Well, guess what? It didn't sell because we couldn't say, we couldn't spell out what this drink is for. If you drink a Focus Aid, guess what? There's no ambiguity. It's got something to do with focus, right? FITAID has something to do with fitness. So that's our strategic advantage, is being able to put the functionality in the name of the beverage, and we couldn't do that with LifeAid, and it didn't sell, so we had to kill it.
Is it dead now entirely?
It's dead. Yeah, we just sent out the last of the cases to our subscribers yesterday, and it's donezo.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Pour one out.
That's right. You mentioned timing, and timing is relevant as far as ingredients or profiles or timing the market, but not flavor. So how do you know when to launch a new flavor? Like when you launch, let's say you go the energy drink route, do you launch 3 flavors? Do you launch 6? And at what point do you know, hey, this isn't working, I'm going to kill them? Do you test those things closely, and how do you decide from the
Yeah,
beginning?
you could dive into the research. There's a lot of great organizations out there that you can pay for the research and look at what are the trending flavors, what's going to be big next year. And again, that's a lot of timing too. I mean, you know, there's there's kind of staples in beverage like a lemon lime like in sodas, right? It's like cola, root beer, kind of a lemon lime, those are like just staple flavors. Well, when do you launch like a cherry coke or something like that, or do some more exotic derivative and that kind of thing? And so it's looking at trends and going, okay, we're never like launching you know some crazy candy flavors. Like we're not a Skittles brand. We're not doing unicorn
Ghost.
turds and stuff like that, right? So our
Right.
flavors are typically a little bit more concrete. This one here I'm drinking is juicy apple. It's got a really fresh, like juicy apple flavor profile. So looking at where the trends are at, looking at what's kind of congruent with our ethos and where are we allowed to go. And sometimes we'll launch something as an LTO for a short period of time, see what it does. And if it does really well, we can bring it back the next year as a permanent item.
Limited time offer. Awesome. Uh, so let's back out to creating this
Yeah.
company, because it wasn't a straight line and it wasn't an easy path at times, as we've talked about over the years. Um, and let's talk about it, because you've taken on money at different points in time. And I think most importantly for most entrepreneurs as a starting point, you had a functional business before you started it. You were a chiropractor doing well or well enough. Why did you start it in the first place, and how did you get it off the ground?
Yeah, when I was a solopreneur, I had a great practice. It was just me and a couple staff. I mean, high margin. I worked 25 hours a week. I made on the lowest end in 10 years in that profession, I probably made 350K. On the higher end, a $500,000 bucks. It's pretty damn good.
15, 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
that's 20 years ago too. So
Yeah.
where I was at the time, like I thought that I had kind of hit the peak. Like I can't do anymore. I can't see any more people. I'm already treating NFL guys and NBA athletes and politicians and like okay, but my brain wasn't developed enough to see what the other potentials possibilities were. Like it's like okay, now what's next? I've kind of done this thing. And, Ryan and I were always bullshitting about different entrepreneurial ideas and, having a lot of fun just riffing on different ideas. And we found one that stuck. And, we dipped our toes in where we were kind of working both for a period of time and probably way too early, burned the ships and went all in on this. It ended up, over time working out, but it's been anything but a straight line. I mean, we've almost gone out of business, bankrupt at least a dozen times. We've had every type of issue you could possibly have in business. We've had it, and throw into that all of the personal challenges and the strains on relationships and not being there as your kids are growing up. And then my house burned down, my brother died, my mom died. And it's like dealing with all of the loss and everything while you still got to keep the ship afloat and moving forward. It's not for everybody. And people are, anyone can be an entrepreneur. I'm like, no, you can't. Like most people just want safety, security, check in, check out, simplicity of life. Like this is anything but simple. It's been the craziest roller coaster, but I wouldn't trade it for the world either. I'm having fun most of the time. And even if I had all the money in the world, and I don't know that I would do a whole lot different outside of fly a PJ. I mean, like I love my life. I got friends that got a lot more money than me, and I look at them, I go, I wouldn't trade them. Like your wife's a bitch, or like your kids don't like you. Like my kids love me. I have a great time with my kids. My wife's amazing. My friends in my community are freaking A tier. I have 100 people over to my house and we throw crazy DJ parties. I just got to DJ with Donald Glaude, a legend of house music. I'm like, really? I'm DJing with Donald Glaude right now? Like, what happened to me? Someone wake me up right now. This is amazing.
Yeah, I grew up in aggressive sales, and somebody told me through that journey that, and this is also kind of, I think, pre-popularized entrepreneurship, right? Today, entrepreneurship is alluring for people, and like the celebrities of our culture are entrepreneurs, many of them. But 25 years ago, or yeah, probably 25 years ago,
No,
nobody knew the names of the
that just
entrepreneurs,
meant you were unemployed.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what
right,
it meant.
right, right.
Remember?
Or you were small
Yeah,
business
your
owner,
girlfriend's dad would be like,
Um,
"Oh, so you don't have a job?"
right. So I was in sales, and I remember that getting pitched on this idea that salespeople were of the happiest people, and the mentality there, I think, is just you have highs and lows in sales, but it is your job to control those and drive towards the yeses of the
Yeah.
highs. And that's the whole job of sales. And I think that the entrepreneurship is very much the same way. Um, I find it irritating and comical that the opening question almost always when you talk to people is, "Oh, how's everything going?" And I'm like, "Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up!" Like, what do you even mean? Like, so a lot of good
Yeah.
shit, a lot of bad
That's what,
shit,
yeah,
just all the
exactly.
time.
All the time. Yeah. I think Dean Jackson does the best job on this. And this is one of the best. I mean, Dean's a great guy. He's an amazing human being. I think the sharpest marketer, well, maybe Alex Hermosi is now, but 10 years ago, definitely Dean was my number one guy. He gave me a reference once. He's like, instead of like chasing this uh this elusive term success, this thing that's out there, and like, if only this, and then when we get there, as you know, you're like, oh, whatever, that was yesterday. Like, what's the next thing, right? He reframes it and he says, I know I'm being successful when, or I know I'm living success
Mhm.
when, and you list it out. Like, one of my things was, I know I'm being successful when I could spend a month a year in Kauai, I know I'm being successful when I can work from home whenever I want. I know I'm being successful when I can have gatherings of all of my favorite people at my house and at my property and do campouts and stuff. I know I'm being successful when, my kids just randomly call me to check in and tell me they love me. Like, you can go through and literally create that and you're like, oh my God, I'm there. Like, I'm living success right now instead of always chasing. Have the appreciation to know that, hey, I am living success, and this is what would I be doing differently if these other things changed? And it's like, not a whole lot, like I said.
Yeah, I think one of my takeaways from that is you it serves you to take the time to do the exercise. And so I think it's very normal to hear advice like that and be like, yeah, 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 blah, 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 write down my goals, list it out. But like, until you do that, it's just theoretical,
Hmm.
right? It's this elusive framework that you can't really see, touch, or feel. And as soon as you put it down, you can look at it and say, oh, wait, I'm already checking all these boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. Well, so tell me about the first time that you thought the company was going to collapse, or the scariest time that you thought it was going to collapse.
It almost collapsed before we even got started. I mean, when we had this great idea, at first it was going to be a supplement company, and then it morphed into Beverage, because when we grew up, no dose was a thing, and now, 15 years ago, no dose didn't exist anymore, and it was all Red Bull. It was like, okay, same functionality, different delivery method. One can have branding on it, the other one doesn't have branding. You just pop it down. For those that don't know, no dose was these pills that you'd buy in the liquor store that keep you up all night. It was like, probably all illegal ingredients now, like heavy caffeine and ephedrine, and like just bad stuff for you.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah, you took too
it
much,
was
you'd be
definitely
like
ephedrine.
just shaking, that type of thing. But when we first said, okay, let's do this beverage company thing. Okay, we want to put it in cans because we don't want plastics, and we're from Santa Cruz. Like, I'm not a full enviro, but I don't want plastics floating in the ocean. This is before even the microplastics in your nads thing and stuff. And cans are infinitely recyclable. So we call the can manufacturer in the United States at the time was called Rexam. They had a West Coast rep. You got to realize Beverage has a 99% failure rate in the first 5 years, 95% failure rate in the first year, 12 months. So this is a one and done business for the vast, vast majority of people out there, right? They have this great idea. They put their entire life savings to create a beverage company, and thanks for playing. Nobody buys it and you're out of business. So we call up, this guy's name was Kevin. He was the West Coast rep for Wrexham. Within minutes of, not even minutes, seconds talking to me, he knows that I know nothing about beverage and I'm a one and doneer, right? And I go, hey, I heard that there's these things called silver bullets. Silver bullets is a can that doesn't have any printing on it. It's literally just the same can, but completely blank. I'd like to buy some silver bullets off you. Will you sell me 2 pallets? He's like, kid, get lost. Everything's made to order. It's made to print. We don't have any extra silver bullets laying around. Like, whatever. You're dumb. Stop wasting my time. Hangs up on me. And I think I had him on speakerphone so Ryan could hear. And I'm like, oh, man, well, there goes our beverage business. Because the minimum at the time is still like over 200,000 cans minimum to produce, right? So we're talking about mass capital outlay just to get the cans, not to get the liquid, not to get it filled, not to get it shipped or distributed, just the cans. And so, I'm a big fan of, I'm sure as you are, of Cialdini's work. So, I had read Influence multiple times and everything. And so I'm like, okay. So I go to CVS and I buy a card, like a thank you card. And, Kevin, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today. If anything ever changes with the silver bullets, please let me know. And I put my cell phone number in there, and I put $100 Roost Chris gift certificate in there and mailed it to him. Well, literally like a week later, I get a phone call. Hey, it's Kevin, doesn't mention the card, but he says, I found a couple pallets of those silver bullets if you still want to buy them. Like, yes. Off to the races. So yeah, that was a challenge. When we went down to the flavor house to finally formulate them, I had all my formulas for these different drinks. I'm all excited, all natural, no artificial sweeteners, 0 to low sugar, all these supplements based on PubMed research and all these dosages that are effective. I hand it to the food scientist. She looks at it and she goes, we can't do this in a beverage. Like, this is too much functional ingredient. You can't make it taste good without sucralose. I grabbed the paper bag. I'm like, okay, well, we'll go somewhere else because we ain't compromising. She's like, well, you guys already booked the lab time. Like, let's see if we can make it work and that kind of thing. And, that started that relationship and we went back and forth. And Darren Ezra, who owns Power Brands, who he's still a good friend of mine. And we worked with him in the early days. I've heard him say this 100 times now, but this is what hooked us in. We're going through this with the food scientist, and he's looking and he's pretending like he's having an influence on the formulation and stuff, and he's a South African guy, and the food scientist's name at the time was Nieti, and he goes, Nieti, take good care of these boys. They're gonna be rich, and just walks out. And I'm like, we're staying with this guy. He knows our future. Meanwhile, every time I'm in the lab, I hear him use the same line on every single person that comes through there. So I always give him a hard time about it every time I see him. Take care of these boys. They're going to be rich.
That's influence, right? I think that people underestimate how much value there is in your ability to persuade.
Totally.
And $100 Ruth's Chris gift certificate at the time, or, a cheesy, line of endorsement that you don't mean that's not authentic at all. Those both move the needle, oddly. Yeah.
Well, most people,
even
if you get it intellectually, if you're not actually putting it into practice, like how many of those 99% of failed beverage companies, are actually taking those extra steps? Even like I just flew in last night. I was out in Phoenix. I took some buyers to the Arizona Niner game, right? Took the buyers out, schmoozed them, everything. I got a meet and greet with Buddha Baker after the game. So I'm down, me and Buddha. Buddha knows me. He's an investor in the company. We're kind of buddies, like they get their picture with Buddha. They're down there in the player locker room. All the players, like, it means something, At the end of the day, with all of AI and all the automations and all this stuff, sales is still all about relationships. And one thing we always talk to the team about is like, look, everybody has an emotional bank account. With every interaction in life, it could be with your spouse, your kids, business partner, whatever, you're making an emotional deposit or withdraw, right? It's like no neutral interactions. It's deposit or withdraw. So the key is to make enough deposits because shit always happens, right? Somebody's package gets damaged, or you say something and it's taken the wrong way or whatever, but you need to have that emotional bank account at a massive surplus for when the inevitable withdrawal happens, it doesn't bankrupt the relationship. And so we're very conscious about that, doing a lot of the little things of whether it's handwritten notes or little gifts, or kind of going the extra mile to really help solidify the relationship. Because at the end of the day, products need to sell, they need to turn off the shelf, but the relationship gives you the maybe the little extra time that you need to hit the velocities to justify your space on shelf.
Feeling like you're going to fail early on in entrepreneurship is distinctly different than having an established company that's doing millions of dollars and getting to the point where everything is about to collapse, or it feels that way. And I know that you've had those moments too. What was the biggest one, and how did it get resolved?
As more in the mature on the more mature side of things,
Yep.
the most immediate, which would likely resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs out there, I mean, coming out of COVID, we had a complete 180 in the financial markets. Like all of the people that were funding, writing the checks, private equity, venture capital, friends and family offices, etc. Everybody just clamped down due to uncertainty. So it went from a growth at all costs model, like it doesn't matter how much money you're burning, just grow, grow, grow. Great example would be like Soylent. Remember Soylent? When Soylent ran, they're on like the cover of Forbes magazine, and like Soylent, no one will have to eat food again. Tech valuations, A16Z's investing here. I don't know if they did or not, but like it was like all this hype. Soylent just completely retracted out of retail. They're almost non-existent anymore. Like at some point, if you have to stand on your own 2 feet, and coming from a small business background, the thought of actually having a company that loses money was very foreign to me. It took pushing from our private equity partners, like, hey, you guys need to start spending a little bit more or invest in growth and that kind of stuff. It's okay if you have some losses. Well, then all of a sudden, around 2021, it's like, nope, no more checks are being written. You got to just make it happen. You got to stand on your own 2 feet. And many, many mid-level beverage companies, CPG companies in general, were unfortunately not able to make that transition and are out of businesses. There's probably, that I know personally, at least a dozen brands that were doing between 10, 20, $30 million a year in revenue. It's not insignificant, that are now have gone bye-bye because they couldn't stand on their own 2 feet. And it's still happening. I mean, we just got word yesterday that a couple of our former employees were now looking for jobs again because the companies they were working for went bye-bye. It's like crazy. But that's the biggest one, is like, okay, we're not funding losses anymore. Turn it around, and you got to do it immediately. And so making the tough decisions when it comes to headcount and staff, when it comes to retail partners. I mean, even if you were losing money with the retailer, it's still significantly contributing to top line revenue, right? So you're removing that top line revenue really affects, overall growth. So being very disciplined on the expense side of the ledger and on the revenue side, and like what's good revenue, bad revenue, pulling back what doesn't make sense, restructuring the organization, getting lean and mean. We let go a significant number of folks and go, okay, what's it going to take to turn this thing around in the shortest amount of time possible, meaning get profitable. And we were able to do it.
Yeah, that's wild. And I suppose it's something that in retrospect, we know that the financial markets shift. We know that interest rates shift. We just both grew up in business in a large chunk of the time in a good financial market, right? Post 08, we had a hell of a tear. And so it's easy to forget, right? Our memories are not that great. But on some level, it should have been predictable. But I think it's not for most people, and very few pivot effectively through those alterations, because it has to be such a significant change to the business itself.
It's not only a change in the business, like you can get it and go, okay, I need to execute as the owner, the entrepreneur, the C-suite, but getting everybody else on board when it's been like all gas, no brake, doesn't matter what the ROI is, just do it as long as it contributes to growth. Like that's the biggest challenge, is getting the organization turned around and in full alignment. Because if you're not in full alignment, there's all these little sabotages that happen subconsciously, in the decision matrix. And we had to let some people go that had been with us for a while because they weren't able to mentally make that change and get in alignment. And for me, I always know, I mean, my favorite Henry Ford quotes, when everyone is moving forward together, success will take care of itself. Like alignment is at the key of everything. Personal alignment with your significant other, relationships, business partner, and with your team. Like you gotta be in full alignment. And when you're not, that's when stress occurs. That's when the wheels fall off. That's when, bad things happen. So, getting that team in alignment, that was a big challenge, because it's like you're dealing with a big organization. And now, hey, by the way, we got to do things basically a 180 of how we've been doing them.
How many people are in the company, and what do you do to keep people in alignment?
Right now, globally, we're around 60-ish. But at like our peak, pre 2020, we were around 100. So, we made some significant changes there. What do we do to keep people in alignment? A lot of it is frequent communication. So I have a daily check-in, 8:30 a.m. every morning with the executive team. Sometimes there's nothing to talk about. Sometimes there's things to talk about. We do a weekly all hands with everybody, including those that are time zone can make it from our European business. We do forward-looking vision statements based on like Vern Harnish's work and stuff. So we're aligning around what we are going to achieve for that quarter, and we're reading every week a forward-looking vision statement as if we've already achieved it. But it's really woven into everything that we do. And I've just gotten a lot better personally as, one of the owners and leaders, of modifying my style of communication based on who I'm communicating with. I've always been more like alpha male, get your shit done, like blah, blah, blah. And if I'm talking to like a college athlete that is working for us, or someone like that, especially a male, they respond great to that. Like, what the fuck, get it done. That's the stuff. If I'm speaking with, a female who maybe has some abuse or something in the background, like you got to change your whole demeanor. You got to bring it down, be more Socratic, change your tonality. And so, getting everybody in alignment isn't just about like marching down the field and line up behind me, let's go to war. It's like really an individual thing of like, okay, how is this person going to respond? Do I need to have this tone or that tone? And, do I need to be more Socratic or more just giving the directive?
How has I love hearing that, because I think that the journey of leadership for entrepreneurs is actually one of the more difficult ones. And, who you are that allows you to launch a company and brute force it. And I'm speaking mostly to, I think, bootstrapped entrepreneurs more than funded ones, because I think the funded ones start from a different place if they go seek out VC in the valley, for example, right? There's a framework for leadership that you follow in the beginning, kind of. And obviously at different phases in the company that changes. But nonetheless, I think that the person that can brute force their way to $1 million or 5 million or 10 million or whatever the threshold is, that person needs to fill a different role moving forward. How has your mindset changed from the early days when you're doing a couple $1,000,000 to, multiple 8 figures?
Being aware, I think it's Landmark that has the whole thing, you know what you don't know, but the biggest realm is you don't know what you don't know. So really actively exploring, where are my weaknesses? My wife reminds me quite frequently of what those are. and actively being open instead of being reactive, being open if I'm getting feedback from my team or from, from anybody on the team, from Orion, from my business partner, from my wife, like, look, Aaron, don't react, don't defend yourself, be open. What is the truth here, and what can I do to improve myself, uh, from a leadership perspective, from a communication perspective. I think certain plant medicines can be really good with this, on like opening your eyes to what you don't know, or opening your eyes to ways that you're choosing to suffer. People may refer to it as generational trauma. I don't buy into that. I believe that it's a generational choice, maybe a subconscious choice that we're making, but we're choosing this perpetuation of suffering, that my dad chose and his dad chose, and from the very first man in my lineage. And like, what are, I think some people have called it historically like sins of the father that are passed down. Like, having awareness about what my propensities are, where am I, where is it easy for me to go? A lot of addiction in my family. It's very easy for me to push the chips all in, take big risks, maybe go a little too, swing the pendulum too far one way or the other. And Orion has actually been really good for me to help kind of tighten that up and eliminate the extremes. Because yes, the extremes can pay big, but there's also big risks. And it's like, this is where, you could blow it all up. And it's like, why are you taking that level of risk? And if you really listen to interviews of the highest level folks financially, it's all about minimizing the downside. I mean, Ray Dalio's big thing now that he's been talking about for several years is all about like, 7 to 9 uncorrelated investments, so whatever happens in the markets, you're not just all in on the S&P. Maybe you have some gold and silver or crypto or sports teams, or, B2B debt, or, there's all these different buckets that you can look at and like, hey, they're kind of uncorrelated for the most part. So this one can go down, but these ones still stay strong. So kind of thinking about it from that mindset, and looking at different industries, whether, like that example is like financial markets and stuff, like, how do I take these lessons and incorporate it into what I'm doing in consumer packaged goods and, with this team and this scale?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the core of that is communication and self-awareness, right? It's assessing where you are, why you operate the way you operate, and being thoughtful about changing that when it's necessary, and being thoughtful about when it serves you and when it doesn't serve you.
100%. Yeah. Well said.
Those are much easier to say than do.
Totally. And it's actually, as entrepreneurs, you'll probably find it's easier for us to do an assessment of other people, of our friends and other entrepreneurs. Like, I can give them amazing advice when young entrepreneurs come to me and I ask them a few questions, like, okay, I know exactly what you need to do. But looking in the mirror and reflecting on yourself, that's the more challenging part of like digging deeper and setting the ego aside and going, hey, how am I actually showing up in the world here?
Yeah, I think simultaneously entrepreneurs tend to be some of the more reflective people, because they're in a position where they are responsible for the outcome, any way you want to slice it. And so I think the more ownership you have in the outcome in your world, the more it serves you to be self-aware. And so the people that accelerate and keep, moving forward in the journey, certainly the best ones are the ones that are thinking about the things you just talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the demon's always going to be on the shoulder, the angel's on the other one. And, like, it's just, it's a never ending process of self-awareness, self-development. Like, is there a perfect leader? Is there a perfect entrepreneur? I don't know that there is. I know that there is the best version of myself that exists somewhere in the multiverse. And I'm actively working to catch up to him and find him and be that person.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, man. I think it's a journey, and it's a pretty fucking strange one.
It is.
So ups and downs, building. Were we still calling it FITAID now that FITAID is dead?
I mean, I refer to it as FITAID just because it's like, why go against the market? Everyone knows us as FITAID. So I've been changing how we haven't made the official switch yet on all the paperwork and stuff, but no, we're FITAID now.
So been building FITAID. What's the current valuation of the company?
Oh, we're probably, the market's changed. Like I don't even know, and I wouldn't even want to go out to market right now. It's not the timing would be horrible from a macro sense.
Sure. Well,
But
let's go height of it then.
yeah, I'd say like 150 million, somewhere around there.
So markets declined since the financial market has been not great since shortly after COVID. Um, if a $500 million strategic called you tomorrow, what is a term that they could have that would cause you to walk away and not take that deal, and why?
It would have to be congruent with our ethos. Like we got into this in a very idealistic manner that people are being poisoned by sugar water and synthetic ingredients that's negatively affecting our health. And every day reviews come in of that I read every single one of them that says, you guys have changed my life. I used to be addicted to soda or this energy drink, and I had all these health problems, and I was told I was going to have to get on medication. It's like I cleaned up and I started eating healthier. I switched what I was consuming, putting in my body, and that's changed things for me significantly. Like that's what keeps me jazzed up. We put it on our Slack channels, like, check out the good we're doing in the world. So, there's a lot of companies out there that I think could carry that torch on, for us and scale it to a way that it deserves to be scaled. And then there's some that couldn't and wouldn't and would refuse to do so or would just kill it. There's a lot of brands that get purchased and just get put out to pasture. And so I'd want a partner that had the same vision for it that we do, that, hey, it may not be one thing. It may not just be sucralose in our diet that has caused this health epidemic in this country, but it's one of the things. It's a combination of all the things that has made us extremely unhealthy, specifically as Americans. And I think the tide's starting to shift, back towards, like, let's really pay attention to what we're putting in our body. I know in my household, we've gotten rid of, most of the crazy gnarly synthetic cleaning supplies and the type of detergent we're using, the type of toothpaste and deodorant I use. All of that stuff now matters because I know it's all contributing in some small way. And so finding the right company that has that vision and is putting out great products in the world and would want to continue to do so would be the right partner for us.
Love that. So we kind of started here, but if you were to start over, would you have started a beverage company or would you do it again?
I'm a glutton for punishment, so of course, yeah, I'd do it all over again. I would do some things differently. The shiny object, the ego stroke is, oh, we're venture backed. We've got private equity money, whatever. Like bootstrap. There's nothing wrong with bootstrapping. There's nothing wrong with staying super niche in a channel and putting a ton of cash in your pocket. Like if we would have just stayed, selling direct to consumer, direct to gym, never went retail, and like we'd probably be cash flowing and putting several $1,000,000 each in our personal pockets every year. Like there is nothing wrong with that. The more you stroke the ego, the more binary the result becomes. We either it's so big or it's worth nothing. And so there's nothing wrong with creating like a real business that serves a great product or service in a niche industry and just kind of milk that for everything it's worth and continue to do really great for that. I think the best example of this for like the entrepreneurial community that's been around for a while, look at like Dan Kennedy, right? Dan Kennedy's a legend of direct response marketing. Literally everybody we know that is successful in their niche on D2C or info products and stuff learned from Dan Kennedy. Every single one of those niche marketers that we know is probably worth, from a financial perspective, a lot more than Dan Kennedy. Because Dan Kennedy was, the generalist that put out like, these are the principles to everybody. And these people took them and went really deep in this like little obscure niche of, carpet cleaning or chiropractors or dentistry or whatever it was, and like crushed it and generated a lot more revenue. So, don't think you have to be everywhere, and you have to have your picture up on billboards and be in all the stores and all that stuff. Like, that shit doesn't mean anything. Like, create a great life for yourself. Double down on the real currency of life, which is relationships. The way things are changing right now in this country, I'm really excited about, but it's crazy what's going on right now. Crazy. And it's all connected. So what is the currency of the future? Is it Bitcoin? Is it the dollar? Is it gold? Is it this? No, it's community. That's the relationship. That's the currency. Because if it all goes to shit, I want people around me that have my back and I have them, and the trust is deep, and we can work and coordinate and grow and defend and hunt, and like, that's what it's all about. And so that's where my focus is. Like, my community is phenomenal. I'm going to continue to nurture that. I'm doubling down on what's working in my life personally, community, from a business. I took Hormozy's, stuff during his launch, a few weeks ago. And the biggest takeaway I got is so simple from him. Maybe it cost me $6,000 to get this takeaway, but it was worth it. It was like, look at what's working and just do more of that. Like, you got something that's crushing. Why are you going to do this other thing? Like, just keep doing that and do double that, triple that. Like, keep going until it doesn't scale anymore. Do more of what works. I think that piece of advice can be taken to every aspect of our life.
What's something that you used to think was super important, but you no longer make time for?
I used to be so concerned about this role that I would play in friend groups and that type of thing. And it was all predicated upon me putting on a specific mask and then filling this role and these expectations of these people around me. And what I've realized as I've matured, and now that I'm 50 and my friend group has really evolved, the true friends are the ones where the mask comes completely off, and it's like, this is me, raw, unfiltered, quirky. I say what I say, like, I mean what I mean, and like, you're either attracted to it or you're not. And allowing that process to take place and allow myself to repel who's not supposed to be in my life anyway and attract who's supposed to be there. It's like the stress level of life has come so far down, despite all the challenges and things that happen and all the shit storms that I'm constantly dealing with. The stress has actually come down because I'm allowed to be myself and be around people that love me for me and not me for who I thought I should be.
Beautiful. Before we wrap, what advice do you have for a brand new entrepreneur starting out?
Come back to my buddy that I mentioned before, Dean Jackson. His number one principle: choose a single target market. It's like blocking and tackling. Choose a single target market and go deep in that market and be authentic to that market. Orion and I met in a CrossFit gym in 2009. I had been treating CrossFitters since the earliest days. I remember seeing Greg Glassman getting kicked out of Gold's Gym and World's Gym when I was 19, 20 years old. We were authentic to that community. We were early in that community. We worked out in that community. I treated those athletes and people running HQ. How many beverages have tried to come in and out of CrossFit since then, and not one of them has been successful? Because most of them, some of them were, but a lot of them, especially the big boys, were not authentic to that community. You can't just pay your way in. So choose a single target market and be completely, and make sure that you are authentic to that target market, not just because you think there's a big opportunity there, but truly like, hey, I eat, breathe, sleep. I'm part of this community. I'm authentic to it. And so that's where I'm going to focus and create a product or service that actually uplifts and is something unique for that group.
Dope. Aaron Hinde. It's great hanging out, man. I appreciate you carving out time.
Hey, buddy. Always a pleasure.
Definitely, man. Looking forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.